Welcome to my channel. What if the biggest obstacle standing between you and the life you want is not a lack of talent, money, education, or opportunity, but the simple habit of following everyone else? Think about that for a moment. Every day, millions of people wake up, look around, and allow the opinions, trends, and expectations of others to decide how they think, how they act, and even what they dream about. They spend years trying to fit in, only to discover that they no longer know who they truly are. Today, I want to share a powerful story about a young man named Ion, whose journey reveals why real strength begins the moment you stop letting the crowd control your life. Ion grew up in a place where people rarely questioned the opinions around them. If everyone liked something, he liked it too. If everyone disliked something, he followed along without thinking. At first, this seemed normal. He had friends, he avoided criticism, and he felt accepted, but deep inside he often felt confused. One day he wanted one future, the next day he wanted something completely different. His goals changed constantly because they were never truly his own. They were borrowed from the people around him. As the years passed, Aeon noticed something strange. The same people who confidently gave advice today would completely change their opinions tomorrow. Trends came and went, popular ideas disappeared. Friendships shifted. Yet, everyone still acted as if the crowd always knew best. One evening, after a long and exhausting day, Ayan sat alone and asked himself a question he had never seriously considered before. Who am I when nobody else is telling me who to be? The question stayed in his mind. For the first time, he realized that he had spent more energy trying to impress others than understanding himself. He began writing down his thoughts. He wrote about the kind of life he wanted. He wrote about the values he admired. He wrote about honesty, discipline, patience, courage, and self-respect. The more he reflected, the more he understood that values are like the foundation of a building. Without them, a person becomes unstable. Every opinion, every criticism, and every trend can push them in a different direction. Soon, Ayan started noticing examples everywhere. Some people changed their behavior depending on who was watching. Others abandoned their goals because friends laughed at them. Many seemed trapped in an endless search for approval. Ayan realized that if he did not choose his own values, the world would choose them for him. From that moment, he made a decision. He would stop living on autopilot. He would think for himself. The change was not easy. When he spent more time learning and less time following distractions, some people mocked him. When he became more disciplined, others called him boring. When he refused to copy every trend, a few friends questioned why he was changing. At first, the criticism hurt. But Ayan remembered something important. Just because many people are doing something does not mean it is right. He began asking himself better questions before making decisions. Does this match my values? Will this help my future? Will I feel proud of this choice later? Those simple questions changed everything. Instead of reacting to pressure, he started acting with purpose. Instead of chasing attention, he focused on self-respect. He discovered that real confidence does not come from popularity, expensive possessions, or constant praise. Real confidence comes from knowing who you are and refusing to betray your principles simply to make others comfortable. As months passed, Ayan felt stronger inside. The noise of the crowd no longer controlled every decision. He understood that clarity is power. A person who knows where they are going can keep moving forward even when others disagree. And while the journey was sometimes lonely, it was also freeing. For the first time in his life, he was not pretending. He was building a future guided by values instead of pressure, and that decision became the beginning of a transformation that would change everything. As he continued his journey, he learned that strength is not about winning every argument or proving everyone wrong. It is about staying loyal to what truly matters when pressure appears. He watched classmates chase attention and then feel disappointed when approval disappeared. He watched others change personalities to match every new trend and still feel uncertain inside. These experiences taught him that peace grows from consistency, not popularity. Day after day, he practiced thinking carefully, speaking honestly, and acting with intention. Slowly, his confidence stopped depending on reactions from other people. He began trusting his judgment, respecting his goals, and protecting his future. The path was challenging, but each step forward felt meaningful. As Ayan continued moving forward, he began to understand another lesson that changed the way he viewed the world. The crowd never stays the same. One week, people celebrate something, and the next week, they criticize the very same thing. Opinions rise and fall like waves, and anyone who builds their happiness on those waves eventually becomes exhausted. Ayan noticed this everywhere around him. On social media, people rushed from one trend to another, copying whatever was popular at the moment. In conversations, he heard people passionately defend ideas they would later abandon. The more he observed, the more he realized that many individuals were not guided by principles, but by the desire to be accepted. That realization made him think deeply. If the crowd changes every day, why should anyone trust it more than their own values? This question stayed with him and slowly transformed the way he made decisions. Instead of asking what everyone else was doing, he started asking what kind of person he wanted to become. Around that time, one of his closest friends encouraged him to spend more time gossiping, wasting hours on distractions, and avoiding responsibility. Many others joined in, saying that life was meant to be easy and that discipline was unnecessary. For a moment, Ayan felt tempted. Following them would have been comfortable. It would have protected him from criticism and allowed him to fit in. But then he imagined the future. He imagined years passing while he remained stuck in the same place. He imagined looking back with regret, knowing he had traded his potential for temporary approval. That vision was enough to strengthen his resolve. He chose growth instead of comfort. Although some people laughed at his decision, he continued studying, learning new skills, and investing in himself. The criticism did not disappear immediately, but something interesting happened. The more he focused on his own path, the less power those opinions had over him. He learned that comparison is one of the crowd's most dangerous traps. Every day, people compare their lives to others and feel unhappy because someone always seems richer, more successful, or more admired. Ayan had fallen into that trap before. He used to look at others and wonder why he was not further ahead, but eventually he realized that every person has a different journey. Some people grow quickly, others grow slowly. A tree and a flower both become beautiful, yet they bloom at different times. Understanding this brought him peace. Instead of competing with everyone else, he began competing with the person he had been yesterday. Small improvements became victories. A little more discipline, a little more patience, and a little more knowledge each day added up over time. The pressure to keep up with others slowly disappeared. Another lesson soon followed. Ayan noticed that people often reject dreamers before they respect them. Whenever someone tries to do something different, criticism appears almost immediately. Many people fear what they do not understand, so they mock it. History is full of examples of individuals who were doubted before they succeeded. The crowd rarely celebrates potential. It usually waits for results. Once Ayan understood this, he stopped expecting universal support. He accepted that some people would never understand his goals, and that was perfectly fine. Their lack of belief did not have to become his lack of belief. As he became more independent in his thinking, he also became more selective about the voices he listened to. He learned that not everyone offering advice has wisdom. Some people speak from fear. Others speak from insecurity. Others simply repeat what they hear from the crowd. Ayam began spending more time in quiet reflection. During those moments, he asked himself honest questions. Was he living according to his values, or was he still allowing outside noise to influence him? Each time he answered truthfully, he gained a little more clarity. Gradually, his confidence became rooted in character rather than approval. He no longer needed constant validation to feel valuable. He understood that attention cannot replace self-respect. Popularity cannot replace purpose. Trends cannot replace principles. By the end of that chapter in his journey, Ayan had learned something powerful. The crowd may be loud, but loud does not mean wise. Opinions may be common, but common does not mean correct. True strength comes from staying connected to your values while the world constantly changes around you. And as he continued walking his path, he realized that the next challenge would require even greater courage, because sooner or later, every person must learn a simple word that can protect their future, their peace, and their identity more than almost anything else. No. As time passed, Ayan discovered that one of the most powerful abilities a person can develop is the ability to say no. At first, this seemed like a simple word, but he soon realized that entire futures can be shaped by it. Throughout his life, he had often said yes when he truly wanted to say no. He said yes to distractions, yes to activities that wasted his time, and yes to situations that left him feeling exhausted. Like many people, he worried that refusing others would make him seem rude or unfriendly. But the more he matured, the more he understood that constantly saying yes to everything was slowly pulling him away from the life he wanted to build. One evening, several friends invited him to spend another night doing nothing productive. They laughed when he mentioned his goals and encouraged him to forget about discipline for a while. In the past, he would have followed them simply to avoid feeling different. This time, however, he paused and thought about the future he was creating. He realized that every yes to the wrong thing was a no to something more important. Saying yes to wasted time often meant saying no to growth. Saying yes to bad habits often meant saying no to peace. With that understanding, he politely refused. The decision felt uncomfortable at first, but it also felt right. For the first time, he experienced the freedom that comes from protecting his priorities. That moment taught him a lesson he would never forget. Boundaries are not barriers that separate us from others. They are protections that help us stay loyal to our values. Without boundaries, people can easily control your time, your energy, and your focus. Ayan noticed that many individuals around him were constantly overwhelmed because they allowed everything into their lives. They accepted every distraction, every argument, and every demand placed upon them. As a result, they felt stressed, frustrated, and directionless. Ayan decided he did not want to live that way. He began guarding his attention carefully and learned that self-respect often requires difficult choices. Sometimes he had to walk away from negativity. Sometimes he had to decline invitations that conflicted with his goals. Sometimes he had to disappoint others in order to avoid disappointing himself. The more he practiced this skill, the stronger he became. He also discovered another truth. Not everyone reacts positively when you create boundaries. Some people become uncomfortable when they can no longer control your choices. A few accused him of changing, others called him selfish. Yet Aeon remained calm because he understood that protecting his future was not selfishness. It was responsibility. He learned that wise people do not give their energy to every opinion or every conflict. They choose carefully where their attention goes. This mindset helped him develop discipline in ways he had never imagined. He realized that discipline is not only about working hard, it is also about controlling decisions. Every time he said no to laziness, he strengthened his character. Every time he said no to distractions, he strengthened his focus. Every time he said no to negative habits, he moved closer to the person he wanted to become. Slowly, these small choices transformed his life. Around the same period, Ayan began understanding another important lesson. Being different is not a weakness. For years, he had worried about standing out. Like many people, he wanted acceptance. But he eventually realized that all meaningful growth requires the courage to be different. If everyone follows the same path without thinking, nothing new is ever created. The people who change their lives are often the ones willing to make unpopular decisions. Ayan noticed that whenever he chose discipline over distraction, some people mocked him. Whenever he protected his peace instead of joining unnecessary drama, others questioned him. Yet he also noticed something else. The criticism usually came from people who were unwilling to improve their own lives. His growth reminded them of the changes they were avoiding. Once he understood this, their judgment lost much of its power. He stopped apologizing for becoming a better version of himself. Instead of hiding his goals, he embraced them. Instead of shrinking to make others comfortable, he continued moving forward. The journey was not always easy. There were moments when being different felt lonely. Some friendships faded. Some people stopped understanding him. But Ion learned that temporary loneliness is far better than losing your identity for approval. He realized that confidence grows when you stop pretending and start living honestly. Little by little, he became comfortable with who he was. He no longer needed permission from the crowd to pursue his dreams. He no longer needed everyone to agree with him before taking action. His values became his guide, and his self-respect became stronger than his fear of rejection. By choosing boundaries, discipline, and authenticity, Ion discovered a deeper kind of strength, one that could not be shaken by trends, criticism, or temporary opinions. And that strength prepared him for the most important lesson of all, the lesson that would shape not only his success, but the kind of person he would become for the rest of his life. The final lesson arrived gradually, not through one dramatic event, but through countless small experiences that revealed what truly matters in life. Ayan began to understand that success without character is empty. Many people spend years trying to look successful. They chase attention, status, expensive possessions, and the admiration of others. Yet, beneath the surface, many of them feel restless because they have neglected something far more important than image: character. Ayan realized that character is built from values. It is revealed in the choices a person makes when nobody is watching. It is revealed in honesty when lying would be easier, in patience when anger feels justified, and in discipline when comfort is tempting. These small decisions may seem insignificant in the moment, but together they shape the person you become. As he reflected on his journey, Ayan noticed that every positive change in his life had started with a value. His discipline helped him stay focused when motivation disappeared. His honesty allowed him to sleep peacefully at night. His respect for others strengthened his relationships. His patience helped him continue moving forward during difficult times. The more he practiced these values, the stronger his character became. He also noticed that many people around him were trapped by appearances. Some looked confident but depended entirely on approval from others. Some appeared successful but felt empty inside. Others constantly changed their behavior to match their environment. Watching this taught Aeon that real strength comes from within. It is not created by attention. It is not created by popularity. It is created by living according to principles. Another important realization followed. Environment matters. The people around you influence your thoughts, habits, and standards. Ion understood that spending too much time around negativity could slowly weaken even strong values. Because of this, he became more intentional about who he allowed into his life. He sought people who encouraged growth, honesty, and discipline. He spent less time around those who constantly complained, avoided responsibility, or discouraged ambition. This was not about judging others. It was about protecting the future he was working hard to build. During this period, he also learned one of life's most difficult lessons. Sometimes you must stand alone. Many people remain in unhealthy situations because they fear loneliness. They stay connected to environments that hold them back because they are afraid of being different. Ayan faced this challenge himself. As he became more focused on self-improvement, some people drifted away. Others openly criticized him. There were moments when the road felt lonely. Yet, he reminded himself of an important truth. Temporary loneliness is better than lifelong regret. He would rather walk alone toward a meaningful future than follow a crowd toward disappointment. Standing alone taught him self-belief. It taught him to trust his values even when nobody else understood them. It taught him that confidence does not come from constant support. Sometimes confidence is built when you keep going despite the absence of support. These experiences made him mentally stronger than he had ever been before. Finally, Ayan learned the lesson that tied everything together. Respect yourself more than the crowd. For years, he had worried about what others thought of him. Like many people, he wanted acceptance, but he eventually realized that no amount of approval can replace self-respect. If you betray your values to gain acceptance, the price is too high. The crowd may change its opinion tomorrow, but you must live with your own choices every day. That is why self-respect matters so much. It means protecting your peace, your future, and your identity. It means refusing to sacrifice your principles for temporary approval. It means creating boundaries and choosing carefully where your energy goes. Ayan understood that not every opinion deserves a reaction, not every argument deserves attention, and not every person deserves influence over your life. The strongest people are not those who please everyone. They are those who remain true to themselves while treating others with respect. Looking back, Aeon realized that his transformation had never been about becoming better than others. It had been about becoming the best version of himself. He learned that the crowd is often temporary, but character lasts. Trends disappear, but values remain. Popularity fades, but self-respect endures. He learned that real confidence comes from authenticity, Real strength comes from discipline, and real peace comes from living according to principles. Most importantly, he learned that the purpose of life is not to fit into every crowd. The purpose of life is to discover who you truly are and have the courage to become that person. So, if there is one message to remember from Ayan's story, it is this: stand with your values even when others walk in a different direction. Stay honest when dishonesty seems easier. Stay disciplined when comfort becomes tempting. Stay patient when progress feels slow. Stay true to yourself when the world pressures you to become someone else. Because in the end, real strength is not following the crowd. Real strength is having the courage to become who you truly are. If this story inspired you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful and life-changing stories. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.